The civilizations of the solar system, the civilizations of the other planets of this solar system, before the destruction of Maldek, already had an average space technology. And the inhabitants of Jupiter's moons did not have such evolution. They were peaceful beings who developed agricultural techniques, but they were already contacted by their neighbors in space. Therefore, among all civilizations, however backward, there was cultural exchange through the commercialization of raw materials and labor. The mercantile system with the other external colonies that came from the same autarchies was very intense, even with outposts subordinated to the Interplanetary Federation. It is important to note that not all of our planets were directly affiliated to the Federation, as they still appeared as ward colonies. Our solar system broke away from its autarchies about 50 million years ago. Before that they were almost all colonies, with the exception of Phoenix and Vulcan. The solar hierarchy did not directly interfere, as this was and still is a common process in the social development of a civilization. In this process of liberation from the colonies, several internal political changes took place between the planets, and among all civilizations there was never a loss of memory regarding their divine and genetic origin. All the inhabitants of the planets knew their direct or indirect descent from the colonists of other constellations. Cyclical cataclysms also occurred on our neighboring planets, which created distinct evolutionary cycles with different civilizations due to later colonizations. So, I have drawn up a table below with the approximate civilizations found in the records. On each planet in this solar system, it is important to emphasize that not all manifestations occurred in the three-dimensional planes. Because due to the atmospheric and gravitational conditions of each planet, life had to adapt in accordance with the most adequate natural possibilities. Regarding the last civilization of Maldek, this was almost completely decimated in the explosion of the planet, however there were many survivors that came to Earth. Others to Ganymede and others occupied the space stations they already owned or were Federation. Considering the original population of Maldek, which had approximately 1 million human beings, with a semi-socialist social structure of predominantly Aryan race, as they are descendants of Lyrians. This explains its egregore of warriors and conquerors. Maldek had, until the moment of the explosion, a prominent position, feared by the other civilizations of the solar system and repudiated as far as possible. The causes of the explosion have already been explained in previous posts. We know, however, that there were two well-defined political and governmental factions, with completely opposite positions and opinions. There is information on the part of Jupiterians that the destruction of the planet was controlled from the Great Pyramid of Egypt. The strange thing is that the pyramids on Earth were all built more than 200,000 years ago at the request of the Maldetians, with manpower of various races and supervision of the Gratians. Another race genetically related, but from another point far away from the solar system. All civilizations that inhabited or still inhabit the planets of our solar system have also gone through evolutionary cycles. Each planet has its individual cycle, which, like the Earth, is intended to renew and recycle the manifestations of life existing on them. On the planets, which initially had physical manifestations, and which managed to transmute it to other higher spheres, they still maintain these manifestations at very high levels, equivalent to what we call ascended beings, but their process was not like what happened on Earth. For all these inhabitants did not have the amnesia that our later civilizations had. The three first reptile civilizations on Earth managed in part to evolve to higher spheres. However, they knew their genetic and divine origin. So is an aquatic, amphibious species that went extinct billions of years ago. The first human civilizations had a complete memory of their origin, thus enabling a faster evolution. Some of these representatives, when they left Earth, colonized the moons and later the planet Saturn itself. Other later civilizations colonized two planets revolving around the giant star Betelgeuse in the constellation Alpha Orionis. Others, more recent, set up bases on the Earth's moon, or opted for intraterrestrial cities, as is the case of a Lemurian and Atlantean species. There are still civilizations of earthly origin, which took refuge in the depths of the ocean. From the records, we verify that until about 550,000 years the general situation of our solar system was well organized, with the Earth being the only source of disturbances due to its nature, where many interferences and manipulations were allowed. It was close to that date that the higher spheres sent the beings known biblically as Adam and Eve to Earth. Both had the mission to raise the vibrational and genetic plane of the inhabitants of Earth. It is good to point out, however, that there were several couples of beings with this role, explaining many ancient references in the Lemurian scriptures about Adam and Eve, as if they had been in various places. Planet Earth is, in any case, a case apart in relation to our systemic neighbors, as there were colonies from all over the galaxy. This did not happen on the other planets, making their evolution more direct and easier than ours.